and action.
All right. So actually, that was the first question I was going to just ask you about was, you're a kid and when you're in your school, when you used to be principal, and I was struck because I'm thinking all-star coaches. This is my image of an all-star coach when I walked into your office. So here's a kid that's got suspended. Let's think of boys walks into your classroom, and what's the stuff that they see is this book on the table. So just tell me about that.
I can safely tell you that 90% of the students who came to see me in my office during my career were boys. So the kids who most often were having struggles and getting in trouble in school were boys. I think it's a little bit of the way schools work. And one of the things that I realized early in my career was that you had to engage these boys. If I was going to learn what way to tech, I had to get them. And the only way I could get them, or the way I could get them, was something that I enjoyed. And I enjoyed reading, and I enjoyed reading because I had people along the way who made me feel like my reading was valuable. And I have a couple stories I can tell you. One, I had Terry Fox book that Terry Fox's mother had signed for me when I was at Hillcrest, and I used to keep that. And this little fellow was always in trouble, okay, and we would talk away. And one day he noticed this book, and I said, "Well, why don't you look at the pictures?" And we'll get started there. And he looked at the pictures, and that young boy and I got to the stage where he came to see me when he wasn't in trouble. And the Terry Fox book was the book we went to, and we would talk then, and I'd see him in the halls, and then, I saw him begin to realize that there was enjoyment in reading, and in that case, it was a nonfiction book. I mean, a lot of times we're trying to get kids that, especially boys, with fiction and their card books and stuff. And the second one was the hockey square book was one period. And it was always on my table because there's very few boys who don't get the hockey and the sports thing, and most of them don't even know who the Toronto Maple Leafs are, other than that they lose, and that was a nice link in with that. And to get to the stage where some of those boys would actually read that book with me after they had been in a fairly traumatic situation in their classroom where they had done something that they realized was wrong. They knew that there was a balance to the force, and yep, there was a consequence, but the consequence wasn't going to impact the fact that they would, and then I would work hard at getting it so they would come to see me so we could read, and it would have nothing to do because they had come because they had been in trouble.
What would you tell, because all-star coaches, one thing coaches do is they recruit others. What would you say to why we need more men involved with this for reading, for telling stories, for stuff in the lives of boys?
Well, my impact, a lot of schools now are women teachers, and there's really been a change with that, and there's because of that change, there's certain things that it impacts in classrooms, and so I would work really hard with the teachers, having them understand, putting in context why I did what I did with the boys in particular, and so that they could develop things in their classrooms and use things in their classrooms where it wasn't always the girls that were reading in class, where the boys would get an opportunity where they were going to be successful, where they had a chance to do something that she knew they already could do, that kind of thing. And the second one was the vice principal was always through discipline. That's one of the challenging things, and that was be another thing that we focused on in the schools that I was at, especially the K-8 schools, where the vice principals would link their passions with relationships with the kids, because it was so important to me and to the people I worked with that we weren't seen as the heavy. We weren't seen as the disciplinarian. Yep, we had to do it, it's part of the job. We always wanted to build it into context so the kids almost knew you were going to catch them when they were being good.
And then now I know, because of that, especially in elementary schools and less as well, that there's, because there's fewer male staff and that, one of the things we've been trying to encourage is to have more men volunteer, even just to come to the meeting in the library times in the schools and stuff.
Yeah.
Just what impact.
You know what, it's funny that you mentioned the one about the male impact, because one of the things that happened during my last few years that really brought that to almost a head for me was our work with Big Brothers Big Sisters, where in this case I was at Beaverbrook, and we had a number of kids who really needed that level of support, and you would see when the volunteer, especially the young men, would come into the school and be with those young boys, and usually they would work in the area just outside my office because there were all kinds of books and all kinds of things there, and you would see these young kids who who weren't always in the best of places, their eyes just light up when they knew it was Wednesday morning, and from 9 till 10 on Wednesday morning, my big brother was coming in, and I didn't have to be in class where I was gonna get in trouble. I would be with him and I would do my Lego, and then we would talk about what we were doing, and in most cases that led us down to the library, which meant I was getting a book out while he got one out, and the deal was when he came back the next week, we had to tell each other what we had read. Well, that's teaching in its ultimate form, without saying it's teaching.
And next week, one of the pieces we're doing too is we're just getting a lot of people, mostly a lot of men coming to tell stories.
Yeah.
Just maybe the importance of storytelling, and, you know, and maybe even who are some of your favorite storytellers that you've seen in the community too.
Well, you know, it's storytelling. I had an experience. I was a cub leader, and you know, as we most know, when we're parents, we get involved with the things we are. And I was a cub leader because I'd gone through cubs myself, and I still remember going on our camps, because we would do 3 big camps each year. And the first year, by accident, one of the other adults said, we should tell, because we were at Camp Tawasi, we should tell the kids a little bit about Camp Tawasi. So of course I knew a little bit about Camp Tawasi, but Camp Tawasi is perfect. You can make a story out about it because it was a big chime and bell. So we decided we would tell them a story about how the chime and bell got there. It was to warn kids when the ghosts were coming in from the boats that had crashed on the shore, and one thing about this, if it's successful, we learn from it. And we had those 20 or 21 young boys. They just sat there, eyes wide open, as we told this story about Camp Tawasi and how it originated. And then of course somebody rang the bell in the back, and everybody jumped. And we started that. That was the perfect example. It was one of those things that, yeah, everybody says you should do that. We did it almost by accident, and then we started to do it every camp. We went our last camp. The last year was at Fundy, and we told them how Alma, the city or town, got its name after the woman who paced the walkway waiting for her husband to come back. It was absolutely a totally fabricated story, but the cubs themselves just, and I have parents now who were there when we did that, who will say, I still remember that story. And there was not one word of truth in that story, but it was, you know, one of those things, and you made it fit, and you could always ask the kids to contribute something. How do you think she dressed? Do you think she knew how to sing? What songs do you think she sang? And you can engage kids, and kids have a chance then to tell you things that they know, and nothing makes anybody feel any better than when they're telling something that they know that's unique and special for them, because it makes them unique and special, and they want to contribute then.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
And I looked all the time.